Today we're talking about the 9 mistakes that beginner actors make so you are aware of them and you can avoid them. And we're also talking about what you need to do instead so you can get some gas behind your acting goals. You are listening to Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, aspiring actors. With me, Louise, the artistic director of Standby Method Acting Studio. And every week I'll be talking with you and sharing how you can become a paid, working, unstoppable actor because you 1000% can. An acting career is doable. Are you ready? So what's the plan then? The plan is to be a paid working actor. You want regular acting jobs, don't you? You want to replace your income that you're currently receiving from your 9-to-5 job with income from acting. But where you are right now and where you want to be can sometimes seem a little bit overwhelming or confusing to know how to get there because the gap between where you are now and where you want to be with your acting career seems massive. It seems like there's a huge abyss and you don't want to fall into it and then end up in the career that you're in right now for the rest of your life because you know that's unfulfilling. So how do we get to the place we want to be with our acting career, you know, in those TV productions, in those film productions, in those stage plays, on the agent's books, who we want to be represented by? How do we do that? Well, there are 9 things that beginner actors often fall into a trap of, which makes that gap between where they are now and where they want to go even bigger, so it takes them even longer to get there. And for many people, they become impatient or they'll just simply listen to other people saying, oh, well, shouldn't you have got some paid acting work by now? It's taking a bit long to take off, isn't it? You know, shouldn't you be doing this by now? Or why aren't you in Emmerdale? Why aren't you in this TV soap? You know, and they put pressure on us. And so for many beginner actors, what they do is they listen to that and then internalise it and think that they're not good enough or that they're doing something wrong, and so they give up. So this is the reason that I'm recording today's episode for you, because I don't want you to give up. I want you to continue on this path despite what other people are saying, but I do want you to be aware of what these 9 mistakes are so you don't fall into the trap of them and for it to take even longer for your acting career to get somewhere. So what I've decided to do is, you know, for those of you that know me, you will know that I am very passionate about teaching the business side of acting as well as the craft of acting. So if you are new to the Unstoppable Actors podcast, hello, welcome, so good to have you here. Let me introduce myself. I'm Louise. I am an acting coach who specialises in method acting. So that's the particular technique that I specialise in. And I've been coaching actors for 12 years. In fact, over 12 years now. And I've been helping them go from beginner actors who are unknowns with blank CVs, like not even a credit on the CV. And I've helped them build up their talent and I've helped them build up their CVs enough that they're now in recognisable TV productions or in stage plays or on recognisable acting agents' books. So I can help you do that. And if you are a regular listener to the Unstoppable Actors podcast, welcome back. Absolutely love having you here. And I just want to share with you before I dive into these 9 mistakes that beginner actors make, we have surpassed the 6,000 download mark. That means the Unstoppable Actors podcast has been downloaded well over 6,000 times. I can't believe it. It's so exciting. I'm so unbelievably excited and I'm truly grateful to you for listening and for downloading the episodes. I literally pour my heart and soul into these. There's nothing I love more than talking about acting, the craft of acting, the business of acting. So to know that these episodes have been enjoyed really makes me smile. So thank you so much. And I just want to share with you that we're now aiming for 10,000 downloads. So if you do enjoy this episode, please do be sure to share it with your networks, share it on your social media profiles, encourage other actors that you know to listen to it, because that will help us hit that 10,000 download mark much quicker. But more importantly, it helps us help more actors like yourself. A lot of this information when I first got started with acting back when I was 14 just wasn't available. We didn't have things like podcasts back then. So I had to do a lot of digging on my own. And believe me, it took a lot of time. And I would have absolutely loved to have had a resource like this available to me. So please do share it if you enjoy the episode. And also rate it as well and leave us a review. I really love hearing from you. I love hearing how the Unstoppable Actors podcast is helping you. I love hearing your wins from listening to the episode. So yeah, please do get in touch, leave reviews. You can email me, louise@standbymethod.com. Just let me know. And who knows, I might be reading out your email on the next episode. Anyway, shall we dive in then? So we're looking at the 9 mistakes that beginner actors make and how you can avoid them. Now, even if you're not a beginner actor, I highly recommend you listen to the end because, it's always good to refresh ourselves, isn't it? Sometimes we can get the curse of knowledge, which means we can get so far into our careers and then forget that we know what we know, if that makes sense. So as I was saying earlier, I've broken this down into the craft of acting and the business of acting. So I've got for you 4 business of acting mistakes that beginner actors make. And then I've got 5 craft of acting mistakes that beginner actors make. I really want you to avoid them. Take notes, download the episode, listen to it again and again and again and again until you have got them drilled firmly into your head and you are so familiar with them that you would never ever default to making these mistakes. So as I said, the goal is to get regular paid acting work, isn't it? That's what we want. So what is the first business of acting mistake then that makes that process of getting regular paid acting work even longer? Well, the first thing is probably not what you're expecting to hear. The first thing is that a lot of beginner actors talk about their acting dreams as opposed to their acting goals. Now, of course, it's good to have dreams with acting. It absolutely is. And I'm all about dreaming big, but we don't want our acting dreams to stay as dreams. So what I would like you to start doing is, yes, dream big firstly and decide what it is that you want to achieve. But then I want you to replace the word dream with the word goal, because a dream is something that stays in our heads. And as nice as it is to keep dreaming and to get our imagination going, that's simply it. It stays in our heads. This is why a lot of beginner actors don't get the momentum behind their acting career that they're really looking for, because they're just visualizing what they want and not really taking action on it. Whereas the word goal actually centers around taking action. So once you've decided what it is that you want to achieve with your acting career, replace the word dream with goal. So you're now saying my acting goals are, and then that's going to help you figure out what action you need to take to achieve those goals. It's very simple, isn't it? So simple. You're probably kicking yourself, some of you, going, oh my God, yeah, that makes so much sense. The moment I changed from using the word dream to goal, it changed everything for me. Because now I'm like, okay, so this is my goal. I want to get in this TV production. So what are the actual steps that I need to take to get there? See the difference? Whereas if it just stays in my head, well, it just stays in my head. That's it. I don't really think about the action that I need to take. I just keep daydreaming. So then the second business of acting mistake is that a lot of beginner actors don't actually think like a business. Now that can be quite challenging if you've never run a business, because it's like, oh my God, like, what do I even need to think like a business? But you have to see yourself as a business, because as an actor, you're a freelancer, you're self-employed, which means you have to source your own work. It's unbelievable the amount of people that get in touch with myself to ask about the training that I offer and then say, okay, so once I've trained with you, what jobs are you going to get me? And I tell them it doesn't work like that. I'm an acting coach. We're not an agency, firstly, so you would then need to go and get yourself an agent. But even then, when you do get yourself representation by an agent, you can't just rely on them. You must be sourcing your own work as well until you get to that point where you've built your profile up enough that you get that break that you're after and people know who you are in the industry. So start thinking like a business. Start thinking, oh, yes, I am a freelancer and there's going to be a lot of action that I need to take to source my own work as an actor. So I become a working actor. But then the other side of this is that businesses have to invest. They have to invest in 2 ways, time and financially. And a lot of people kind of shy away at that, the financial side of it, and think, oh yeah, but I don't want to be paying for things. I want everything for free. But no business can run on fresh air. And I know that sounds harsh, but it is the truth. So if you want to be a working actor who gets paid work regularly, then you have to start thinking about the things that you're going to have to make financial investments into. And that might be things like headshots, showreels, training. They would be the basics. Yes, it is costly to be an actor in the beginning until you get that breakthrough. But if you start thinking like a business, businesses don't think about wasting money. Businesses think about, what is the return on my investment? So what is the return on my investment time-wise, and what is the return on my investment financially? And if you start thinking like that, it will change how you perceive money. It will change how you perceive where you're placing your time and energy. So for example, a lot of actors, complain that, well, there's all these classes out there and they just want our money and nothing comes from the end of it. But when you start thinking like a business, instead you would go, okay, so there's 5 classes available to me. What would be my return on investment if I took training with the first set of classes? What would be my return on investment if I took training with the second set of classes? What would be my return on investment if I took training with the third set of classes? So when you start thinking like that, you're now no longer thinking about wasting money. You're thinking about the time and effort and energy that I'm going to put into these, and the money that I'm going to put into these classes is going to bring me this back in return. And therefore, I have had a return on the investment I've put into them. So start thinking about return on investments, start thinking like a business and how you will need to invest time, money, and energy into things, and start thinking about the bigger picture rather than just where you are now. Because if you think about it, if I take an example from one of my students, or ex-students, one of my ex-students trained with myself, so I was their acting coach for well over 10 years. In fact, it might have been 11 years. And they did the 10-week method acting modules. They completed all of them, absolutely all of them. Now this ex-standby student, because they've completed all the training, they've now gone on to work on TV soaps. They've gone to work on Netflix dramas, done plenty of films. So even though they've put a lot of time and money into the training with me, they're now getting that back and they're raising their profile. So it's been a worthy investment of their time, energy, and money. Can you see where I'm going with this? And can you see how thinking like that is going to help you? Because when you start thinking about, oh my God, I'm wasting money, I'm not going to get anything out of it, then you start becoming jaded, you start becoming frustrated, you start becoming resentful, and you don't want to spend your money anywhere. And actually that can be a lot harder, because one of the big benefits, I believe, of, well, I can only talk about standby and our training because I've not experienced all the other classes, but one of the big benefits of coming to train with standby is that you've got community around you. You've got other actors who are on a similar journey to you, and they share their insights with you. So you're learning about the industry, and our students certainly share castings with each other as well. So your chances of getting to more auditions increase. And because I put you through your paces with the training, and I mean, I really put you through your paces, you develop a sensational work ethic and your talent develops much quicker. And that's what casting directors and agents and directors want to see. They want to know, have you got talent? Can you act? They're not going to take a risk on an unknown actor who can't act. It's as simple as that. And if they can see that you've been investing in training, that makes them trust you more. And if they can see that you can actually act and you've got talent, that makes them trust you more. And if they can see that you've continued your training and you've not just done a class here in 2022 and then a class back in 2019 and then a class back in 2003, if they can see this consistency, they're more likely to take you seriously because you're taking yourself seriously. So think beyond the here and now. Think about the bigger picture and what the return on investment is. Then the third business of acting mistake that a lot of beginner actors make is they simply think, oh, I just need to get headshots. And they get that done first. And they get them done really quickly on a whim because they know that they need them, and everybody talks about headshots, but they don't really think about what role a headshot plays in their acting career. They're just getting it done just because it is the easiest thing to get done. I mean, anybody can take your headshot, but are you thinking about your branding? Are you thinking about where you want to be in the industry? And if you are, then your headshots should be reflecting that. You should not just be going out on a whim willy-nilly and getting headshots with anyone just because it is the easiest thing to do. Everything has to be strategic. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will have heard me say this before. This is not the first time I've said this, and I will continue to say it until it sinks in. Your headshots are the first thing that either directors of independent films or of independent stage plays or casting directors of bigger productions see, and they determine whether they're going to call you into the audition room. So that's what you want to be thinking when you're getting your headshots done. And you also want to be getting a lot of different headshot photographers' details so you can check them out and see whether they align with what it is that you're trying to achieve from these headshots. Now, if you want more information on headshots, I'm not going to dive into that in this episode, but I did do an interview with Kate McDonald So if you go back through our podcast and scroll back, you will find it. Or you can just click the link in the description because I've linked it in there for you as well. And I go into a real deep dive into headshots and the strategies that I had in place for when I had my last set of headshots taken. And they really worked, because not only have I got more auditions than I've ever had in my life, but I've also landed an agent as well. So I know that the strategy and the planning and the research paid off. So if you do want to learn more about that, listen to this entire episode and then click that link in the description. But yeah, don't just go and get headshots done on a whim, because that's when you will be wasting money, and that's when there will be no return on investment. So then the fourth business of acting mistake that beginner actors make is that they just dibble and dabble. And what I mean by dibble and dabbling is they do a couple of classes here and there, and then they think, I'm not paying money for classes anymore, I've got nothing out of these. And then they realise, I'm not actually, I feel really out of the loop now, out of the circle with acting. So then they join loads of Facebook groups and think, I'll just join them and I'll just look for castings. And then they don't really see that many castings in there. And then they start to lose motivation. And now they're losing motivation, people are getting on the backs usually about, you're still doing your acting, and it starts to put pressure on them. And then they're internally putting pressure on themselves. And then they start to stress about the day job, and then they start to stress about money and bills and everything else. And all of this just compounds, and they lack consistency, and they lose motivation, and they don't do anything. And they get a sense of feeling proactive because they're in a Facebook group or in a few Facebook groups or following casting directors on Twitter, but they're not really doing anything with it. And then what eventually happens is, the money feels good coming in from the day job, and it's like, I've got money and I'm not skint. But then eventually those feelings start knocking on the heart again of like, yeah, but you really miss acting. You've not really done much with your acting for however long. So then that cycle starts up again. They get more active in the Facebook groups. They might join another acting class. They start replying to casting directors on Twitter. And then they get stuck in the frustrated thing again because things aren't happening quickly. So I'm here to tell you can't be a dibbler and a dabbler. You've got to be consistent. But you also have to make peace with the fact that an acting career is not going to happen overnight. It takes 10,000 hours of practice to become a master at your craft. So that means you have to commit to training, and you have to commit to decent, high quality training. If you like the way I speak on these podcast episodes, and you've been following Standby for a while, or you've only just started following us, I'm going to be telling you at the end how you could train with us in the new year in 2023. So listen out for that. That's at the end. But yeah, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master of your craft. And it also takes 10 years to become an overnight success, which really the irony of it all is that there is no such thing as being an overnight success, really, is there? Everybody might see you as an overnight success, but they don't see the graft that you've put in before that. They don't see the countless hours of training you've committed to. They don't see the thousands upon thousands of rejections that you've had. Again, if you want another insight into this, the ex-student that I was talking about who was trained on all of the modules and is now getting TV work, I actually interviewed that person and I'd added up how many rejections they'd had, which was well over 7,000. So I've linked that podcast episode in the description as well. So if you want to go to that and have a little listen to it, be my guest, go and listen to the absolute commitment that that person put into their acting career. And that will help you understand why you can't be a dibbler and a dabbler, because that person wasn't. They didn't dibble, they didn't dabble, they were consistent. Even when the rejections were coming in thick and fast, even when there were big periods of time where there was no acting work, that person stayed consistent, and you need to too, because consistency builds momentum. It's hard to get going when you lose motivation, and you don't want to be in those up and down fluctuations of having motivation and then none, having motivation and then none. What you've actually got to do is you've got to replace lack of motivation with discipline. Even when you're feeling knackered, even when you're feeling like you can't be arsed, even when you're feeling like, oh God, this is too hard, I'm not getting anywhere, just find the discipline to do one thing. You don't have to do masses. Nobody's saying you have to work yourself into the ground or burn yourself out, because you don't have to. But just keep consistent, even if it's one small thing every single day that you're doing towards your acting career. So they're the 4 business of acting mistakes that beginner actors make. So I'll just recap them. So number 1 is you need to replace the word dreams with goal. So don't call them your acting dreams, call them your acting goals. Number 2 is you need to think like a business and start thinking about return on investments and what your branding is and what your strategy is going to be to get you to where you want to go. Number 3 is Be strategic with your headshots. Think about how they play into the bigger picture of your acting career. Number 4 is do not be a dibbler and a dabbler. Stay consistent, because consistency compounds and it eventually pays off. So let's move into the final 5 mistakes then that beginner actors make. Now, these are based around the craft of acting. This is very, very important because the craft of acting and the business of acting have to go hand in hand. So with the craft of acting, the first mistake that I see, well, actually not just beginner actors making, I see actors who've, been in the industry a while making this mistake as well. And it's that they voice act. So what do I mean by that? I mean they're putting feeling into their voice and they're making the voice sound like there's intention in it and as I said, feeling. But what they're forgetting is that acting is a visual art. So they forget to do things, they forget to behave, because characters are always doing something. They're not just standing there saying lines and making the lines sound good. They're actually doing something. So every little thing that you do, from that sideways glance to that bite of the lip, is telling a story. So avoid just voice acting. Notice yourself when you're doing it and call yourself out. And then ask yourself, what is my character doing right now other than just talking? What else are they doing? And then give yourself something to do that fits in line with the given circumstances. So that's the first mistake that beginner actors make with the craft of acting. The second one is that they apologise when something goes wrong. Anybody who trains with me knows we never say the word sorry, ever, ever, ever. If we're doing a table read and we talk over someone, we don't say sorry, because that breaks focus. If we're in the middle of a scene and we forget a line, we don't say, sorry, I nearly choked then. We don't say sorry, we carry on. The reason we don't say sorry is because then it actually looks like something is going wrong in the scene. And what that does is that trains you into bad habits. That trains you to break focus every time you perceive something is going wrong rather than continuing. So many people know the story about Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained, where he smashed the glass and it cut his hands. So a beginner actor would go, oh my God, but he carried on, and everybody talks about how amazing that is. But that's because he's trained his focus. And Lee Strasberg had a saying which was, there is no room for distraction, only potential inspiration. So if you remember that, the next time you forget a line, or the next time you talk over someone, or the next time you stumble over a word and you go, oh, actually, there's no room for distraction, only potential inspiration, then you can use that to your advantage to create truth, to create authenticity, new moments, to carry on, to inspire you to find new things in the scenes. So don't apologise for anything. Carry on. And apologising can look like actually stopping the scene and saying sorry, or it can look like freezing. And when you do that, what you're actually then doing is you are then passing that energy on to your scene partners. And that energy is very easy to catch. And you'll find that your scene partners then start stumbling and freezing and apologising. And we don't want to do that. We always want to show up as a team player. We're always a teammate in scenes. So if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your scene partners. Continue. And just remember, in real life, people do stumble over words. People do talk over each other. It is not the end of the world. Continue. Okay, then the third craft of acting mistake that beginner actors make is playing yourself. And this shows up by the actor saying things like, yeah, but I wouldn't say that, I'd say this, or I wouldn't do that, I'd do this. And whilst that's a very valid point that yes, you would say those things, and yes, you would do those things, you're not actually being paid to play you. You've not been cast as you. You've been cast as Romeo, or you've been cast as Juliet, or whoever. Don't even have to be Shakespeare, it could be whatever. You've been cast as the character, not as you. So whilst you can draw upon your life experience and channel it into the character, we're not necessarily playing you. So get familiar with how the character does things. Get familiar with how the character says things, and embrace that and immerse in it until it feels like second nature for you. Because you don't want a showreel full of you playing you. You don't want a career full of you playing you. You've come into this career because you like playing other characters. You like diving into their lives. We're a bit nosy as actors, aren't we? We are so interested in what it's like to be other people. So allow yourself to do that rather than just bringing yourself to the table. The fourth craft of acting mistake that I see from beginner actors is ad-libbing words. So ad-libbing just means improvising words. I am an absolute stickler as an acting coach and an actress as well for learning the lines word for word, verbatim, no making it up. And the reason I'm a stickler for that is because we're not writers. We are actors. And when we start ad-libbing things, we're just trying to make it easier for us to connect. But it goes back to that point before that, then we start playing ourselves. Every single word has been written in the script for a reason. And words have intentions behind them. So when you start changing them and improvising, you're changing the intentions. And words also have a particular rhythm to them as well. And that rhythm helps you unlock the emotional life of the character. So don't start ad-libbing. Get disciplined. Be a master of your craft and learn the lines word for word. There are many different ways that you can learn your lines to make it easier for yourself. Again, what did I do? I don't think I did a podcast episode on this, but I definitely did a video on this on our Facebook page, which is Standby Method Acting Studio. And I think the video was titled something like The Caveman's Secrets to Learning Lines. There's a really good way that you can learn them that I share in that video. So if you want to go and listen to that, or go and watch it and try it out, then go ahead and do that. But get disciplined. If I was a writer and I saw people changing my work, I might be a little bit offended. You know, if someone was going to play you in the story of your life and they started changing who you were, you'd be like, that's not me, that's not how I did things. And it's the same for writers. Let's respect their work. It will also make you a more disciplined actor anyway, and it will help you by, as I said, unlocking the emotional rhythm of the character when we're disciplined by learning the lines verbatim. Okay then, so the final craft of acting mistake that I see beginner actors make is they ignore the punctuation in the script. They either ignore it altogether and plough through it, or they start creating pauses and beats in the scenes, or in the words, that aren't there. And again, punctuation is just as important as every single word that you say in the script. So punctuation allows you to figure out the thought process of the character. So if there's a comma, that's a break in the thought process. If there's a full stop, that's the end of the thought process. And when you just start ploughing through that and ignoring it, you are completely changing the thought process of the character. And what you need to know is that thoughts trigger feelings. So then you're changing the emotional life of the character as well. So when you start recognizing that punctuation is there to guide you with the thought process and the emotional life of the character, then you start seeing the importance of it. Don't ever ignore the punctuation in scripts. The punctuation is almost like a set of stage directions. So for example, if you see 3 exclamation marks together, you know that that character has got a big, high, intense emotion there. It could be excitement, it could be anger, it could be frustration, it could be something else. But the very fact that there's 3 exclamation marks there is a stage direction for you. It's guiding you. The writer is guiding you with their intention with the character in that moment. So please respect the punctuation. And one thing I would ask you to do is just start putting slash marks through the script where you come across punctuation. That's what I do, because then that reminds me to be disciplined as an actor, and it's what I teach my acting students to do. And there are other things, other exercises that I do with them as well to help them honour the punctuation. And when they do, they actually stop rushing the scene and the scene becomes more truthful. So let's recap then the 5 craft of acting mistakes that beginner actors make. Number 1, voice acting, which is putting all the feeling into the voice but not necessarily doing anything. Number 2, apologising when something goes wrong. Number 3, playing themselves in every role. Number 4, ad-libbing words. And number 5, ignoring punctuation. So when you avoid these things that I've mentioned, you will find that your acting talent accelerates. You will be able to turbocharge your talent. And when you put to use the business of acting things that I spoke about in the beginning of the podcast, you will find that your acting career gets more momentum behind it, more gas, and things start happening quicker for you. Now, as I said, we do have classes opening in January 2023. The great thing about our classes is that not only do you get weekly method acting training, and method acting training is intensive. It gives you the work ethic that casting directors and agents are looking for, and it gets your talent to a level that casting directors and agents are looking for. But not only that, you've heard me say earlier in the episode how passionate I am about actors learning about the business of acting as well. So for those people who audition for the January 2023 10-week method acting module and are accepted onto the course, Not only do they get the weekly acting training, but they also get a £300 Business of Acting online course absolutely free of charge. It is a no-brainer to come and train at Standby Method Acting Studio on the 10-week modules, because no other acting schools, to my knowledge, are giving that away. They're not giving away Business of Acting courses on top of the weekly method acting classes as well. So not only will you learn how to improve your talent, how to connect to those characters, how to create the emotional life of the character, but you'll also learn about the business of acting and branding and strategies and how to set and achieve goals and how to write cover letters and how to write to agents, etc. You will get all of that on top of the weekly classes as well. So when I was talking about return on investment earlier, your return on investment is phenomenal. That's why our acting students get lots and lots of auditions. It's why they get acting work. And you only have to check out the reviews on our website to see that. So the auditions are Monday the 2nd of January 2023 for the 10-week method acting modules beginning the 2nd week of January. I've popped the link in the description so you can read up more on the course. And I've also popped the link in the description for the application form. If you're like, do you know what, actually, I know I just need to apply for this, then just fill in the application form. And then you will get sent a script and your time slot. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've absolutely loved going through it. As you can probably tell, I'm really passionate about the craft of acting and the business of acting. And I hope what I've shared with you is landing, it's resonating, and it's getting ideas whirring in your head. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. I have absolutely loved hanging out with you, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, aspiring actors. Now, if you did, I'd really love you to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a review. And if you would like weekly injections of inspiration, you'd like mini method acting challenges to keep you making progress with your dreams, come and join the most supportive acting community online by clicking the link in the notes to help you become an unstoppable actor.